Next, we have Rachel Shanks. She's presenting the paper for a group of colleagues from the University of Aberdeen in the United Kingdom. Okay. Good afternoon, Rachel. How are you?
Hi. Great, thanks.
Okay. You're going to talk to us today about glowing together as opposed to growing together, correct?
Yeah. Can you see my slides?
Yes, I can see the slides. I can hear you clearly. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just trying to see my slides. At the same time as presenting. Sorry, everybody. So hi, my name's Rachel Shanks. Here we go. There we go. Welcome from the north of Europe. I have a woolen jumper on today, just to show I'm up in the north of Scotland, and I'm presenting on behalf of my colleagues Katrina Foy, Aloyise Mulligan, and David Johnston, who I think are watching on YouTube at the minute. So what do we mean by glowing together? So the title is to do with our national intranet in Scotland, which I'll explain in a minute. I just thought I would show, just to remind people the geography of Scotland. So we're the least densely populated country in the European Union. I know we're sort of not in it anymore, but we like to imagine that we will be in the future. So Aberdeen, where the University of Aberdeen is that little yellow corner in the northeast, in that green of Aberdeenshire, where
Sorry
I'm presenting.
For the interruption.
Yeah, is it not sharing my screen?
Yes.
Sorry, I thought it was sharing. Okay, let me. Oh, I know what it was. Just sharing my other screen. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So. I'm sorry, everyone. I minimized the screen so that I could see my slides. I'm working. I don't know if everyone else has the problem of working on a laptop and then screens.
We can see you now. We can see the screen now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to do it from, there we go. So there's my map. I'll try and do it. Can you see it as the slideshow now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So apologies for that. I was just saying where we were in Scotland, and Scotland and the education system is set up at national level, and that's Scottish level. So the Scottish education system has always been separate to the rest of the United Kingdom. Compulsory schooling was set up in Scotland in 1872, and now we have Scottish Government and Scottish Parliament back from 1999. But even before we had the Scottish Government and Scottish Parliament, Scottish education was always separate to education system in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And the way it's set up in Scotland is we have the national level, we have 32 local authorities, and then at the local level we have clusters of schools that are the secondary school with their cluster of primary schools, so it's quite a local, then local level, then local authority, which is sort of in between local and regional level, and then national level. So it's just, we have to understand those three layers to understand what's happening in Scotland at the minute. So I was saying that I'd explain why we called it glowing together. So glow is the name for Scotland's national school intranet. And so every teacher, every pupil has a secure login into Glow. And then when they get into the Glow intranet, they have a series of tools that they can access. So obviously this has been really useful since the lockdown that began with us on the 23rd of Monday, the 23rd of March. And what it means is that the schools didn't have to go out and decide, are we going to get Microsoft Teams? Are we going to get Google Classrooms? What are we going to use? Because they already had those available to them in Glow. And so the teachers that we have been asking about what they've been doing since the lockdown, and the schools in Scotland are still, the buildings are, have stayed shut the whole time. And now all schools in Scotland in the state sector are on holiday. And about 93% of children in Scotland go to the local authority schools, go to nationally, state funded schools. And what we found from the teachers that we've been in contact with for this presentation and for ongoing research is that what they used was Glow. They didn't try and set up alternative routes. One of the reasons for that is, of course, everything is secure on the national intranet. So people haven't used FaceTime or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger because of data privacy issues. And in local authorities, in the state sector, there's always been a very cautious approach to data security and data privacy. So it means that sometimes in local authorities, teachers haven't been able to email each other attachments because the IT department has been worried about data breaches. So within Glow, it means that there's none of those concerns. So we have data from 6 of the 32 local authorities. So not surprisingly, as we're the University of Aberdeen, we've had information from teachers in Aberdeen City, Aberdeenshire, Murray, which is very close by, Perth and Kinross in the centre of the country, Glasgow, and then further north than us, the Highlands, and to the west, the islands. And as I've just said, it was Glow that they were using, and most teachers were using Microsoft Teams and Google Classrooms. Early years didn't see Glow as being that relevant to them because...
Sorry to interrupt again,
Yep,
Dr.
it's
Shanks.
still
It
not...
seems that you're
Yep.
not changing your slides, or something is wrong.
Going wrong,
that.
right,
We are
sorry.
still looking at the map.
Okay, so sorry about that. It's trying to use the slideshow, and we don't use Zoom. My maybe similar to the local authorities that my institution doesn't use Zoom because they worry about the
No problem at all.
data, sorry. So I'm just trying to... Okay, so at the minute, have I lost the screen sharing, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just start again. So can you see that?
Yes.
The map.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And now can you see the Glow icons?
Yes.
Great, okay. Okay, so then I was just explaining that from the teacher perspective, the Glow wasn't seen as being so useful because obviously with the younger children, they're not expecting them to be sitting at a screen doing things online. But all of the teachers that we've heard back from said that they felt that, maybe unsurprisingly, that their IT skills had been improved since lockdown. But because we've got that national, local authority, school level, and then teacher autonomy, every school has been doing something different. So although there's the national guidance on how to make sure schools are safe. Then a local authority sometimes is taking a blanket approach to what should happen in their local authority schools, but then there's still autonomy for each school, for the head teacher and department to decide what they're going to do, and also what the teacher thinks is useful for them to do with the children in their class. So for example, Stirling local authority decided that there would be no live teaching. There would be no synchronous teaching with any school, with any teacher for the whole of all the Stirling schools. Many secondary schools haven't done live teaching, and many primary schools, because of the difficulties, the worry of excluding pupils who don't have access to a device where they could be part of a live session, but also because of problems with Wi-Fi. So in rural areas, and from the map, which I know you saw for a long time, but you can see that a lot of Scotland is quite rural. And so there are problems with their mobile phone problems and network problems and Wi-Fi problems. So there has probably been a lot less live synchronous teaching in Scotland than other parts of the UK and other parts of Europe. So what we found out from early years teachers was that they were trying to be, interactive, involving parents, involving other family members, but it was very much things away from the screen. So it was getting the children to do activities around the home, and then parents were quite keen then to upload evidence that they had been carrying out those activities. So the parents would upload photos or videos. So there was much more of the parents being involved in the IT use than the child being there at the screen. In terms of primary school teachers, tended to be that daily tasks would be set. Sometimes with some schools, there'd be some synchronous teaching, but mainly what the children wanted was to talk to their friends, to their classmates. It wasn't necessary. So those sessions could be useful in terms of in continuing peer socialization. And then the tasks that the children were doing, there would be some feedback by the teachers to the child through Google Classrooms or Seesaw, whichever mechanism they were using. But the worry with primary teachers and secondary teachers was just the lack of engagement, that some children just were never taking part either in live sessions or the tasks that were set, and just this ongoing worry that they were just absent from all the school activities. Now, different to the primary school where it was maybe daily tasks, the secondary teachers, it tended to be for each subject, it would be weekly tasks that the children would be set, or the young people, and then they would upload their assignments. As a parent with two of my children at secondary school, that was the system at our local secondary school. But the teachers that we talked to elsewhere, they did still try to be following what they had planned for the term, so that there was some progression in tasks. It did depend slightly on subject and on teacher, as well as on school and local authority. And again, as I said, with primary schools, there was that difference that some children, some young people, there was no engagement. And then different to primary and early years, with secondary school, very little contact between teachers and parents. So we tried, hopefully you can see this slide on the third space. We tried to then think about conceptually what's been happening in homes, because obviously our schools have been shut since the 23rd of March. And we thought about the fact that usually there's this division between home being one space and school being, a separate space where most of the teaching and learning goes on. And then we thought about the fact that now that school is at home, schoolwork is all at home. I don't think we should talk about homeschooling because that's that implies that it's the parent doing everything. Usually when we talk about homeschooling, although that word's been used a lot here in the UK recently, but really, you know, school was in the home, so in a sense it created a third space. So we have, you know, home activities, you know, everyday life. Then we have what usually the school activities that would be in the school building, suddenly they're here in the home. And so it's creating that sort of third space, or we could think of it as a sort of liminal, you know, in between state or extra state that the children and the teachers are negotiating and creating this sort of new space where you're doing things that normally would have been done at school. You're getting some direction from the teacher, but you're creating this different space, hopefully, so that you can understand that, you know, in a sense, you're pretending that you're at school while you're at home. And I guess a lot of us have been doing that for work as well. And so that's led us to think about some new questions about whether this will continue if the school buildings are open, whether the teachers will continue to think of how can they create that learning space, that third space at home, to encourage children to do more of learning in a self-regulated way, which they've had to do because there haven't been those, for most pupils, there haven't been those live sessions to structure their day. And sort of thinking how the roles of the participants will change. You know, will the teachers realise that they can give more autonomy to pupils, especially in secondary stage, which they have done up until now? And then thinking about the parents, because they've been more engaged, even the parents of older children, they've been seeing the work that their children have been doing. So will they want to stay more engaged, finding out more about what's happening at school? But obviously that's difficult, all the power relations, you know, the teachers may not want the parents to be more involved once everything's back in the school buildings. We're going to wait and see what happens in August and September. And so after the summer, at the minute, the plan is for all the schools in Scotland to be open from our school holidays finish in mid-August. So from mid-August, it's expected that schools will be going back. But I know that planning isn't for things to return to the way they were before the 23rd of March. So because we want to minimize the contact between pupils. So it might be that in secondary school, pupils stay in one classroom in the secondary school so that they're not moving about the building, and they'll have teaching from less changes of teacher during the day. But the key thing is going to be, first of all, about peer socialization, just reintroducing the pupils back to, life at school and with each other. And I know a lot of primary schools are wanting to focus on mental health and well-being, because obviously for some children, it's been a very difficult time being in lockdown. So that's where we've got to, and those are the references on third space, and those are our contact details. 3 of us are quite active on Twitter. Apologies for the Zoom glitches with I'm a Microsoft Teams expert now and not Zoom, so sorry for the screen sharing problems. So if anyone's got any questions, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Rachel, for your very interesting presentation. I think it opened a window for us to Scottish education, and it's good to see that some of the issues that you brought forward are very common in other countries as well. For example, the issues of equality, of learners at risk, not excluding students. So thank you very much. I see some comments too. Great presentation. And now let's see if we have any questions. Because I think we've really passed the time a little bit. Let's say 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, sure. So
just 1 or 2.
Okay, so we have a question regarding whether the educational material of e-teaching was made from teachers or from a central organization. Thank you.
Yes, so although there are some sharing of resources on Glow, we don't have a national curriculum. So we have something called, I haven't actually mentioned, Curriculum for Excellence, but it shouldn't have been called that. It should have been called School Framework or something like that, because actually it's up to teachers to decide what they teach. So they have to make sure that they cover certain experiences and outcomes so that children are able to develop skills and knowledge, but it isn't specified what is in the curriculum. So we don't, so the answer is no, we don't have a national resources. Now, some people are saying that doesn't make sense, because obviously small groups of teachers could get together and work on resources that could then be shared out to, hundreds, thousands of teachers. But at the minute, it's left to each teacher and school to have those resources, because each school is doing something different. In one local authority with 8-year-olds, they might be studying the Vikings, another might be studying the Tudors. It's up to each local authority and school what children are studying at each time, and there's quite a lot of choice for exams in secondary school of what texts are studied.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have one more question?
Yes, one more question. Okay, so did teachers create their own online teaching material? What did the government provide in order for the teachers to prepare their own lessons, please?
So the government, because of this decentralized system, what the teachers did was they created their own worksheets. So either they had their worksheets, maybe at primary school level already, and they simply uploaded those, or the secondary school teachers just set the tasks for the young people to do from what they. So unfortunately, it's meant an awful lot of extra work for teachers. A great deal of extra work for teachers, because there haven't been those national resources. Now, in some ways, that's a bonus, because we have that professional autonomy of the teacher, and the schools can decide what to do for their area, for their community, but obviously it's created a lot of work for teachers.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. There are a lot of things that we would like to discuss. Perhaps at the end of the panel we can come back to Scotland and discuss this more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.